you so much for joining today's webinar. We are back with yet another very interesting topic. And this time the topic is going to be buyer's intent. So anybody who has been there in the B2B marketing and B2B sales space may understand what I'm talking about. Buyer intent, and what is buyer intent data and how can we drive pipeline growth using buyer intent data. So for everybody who is joining in without any understanding of what buyer intent is, then we are going to explain that to you in this particular webinar. And for everybody who already are aware of it, if you're coming from B2B sales and B2B ABM and B2B marketing background, and if you're aware of what buyer intent is, then we're going to talk a little bit more about where this is heading, where the intent data is heading and how you can increase your sales pipeline using buyer intent signals and buyer intent data. So it's a very interesting topic. So stay with us. We're going to stretch this a little bit. We're going to go a little bit of deep dive. I'm also going to show you how you can do it in HubSpot. So just stay tuned and let's get right into it. All right, so what is buyer intent? So for anybody who is not aware of what is buyer intent, let me explain that in a very simple language. So buyer intent has two words. One is the intent and the other is buyer, okay? That means whenever you try to buy anything, whenever a buyer is trying to buy anything, that person should have an intent of buying it, right? If I want to buy a pencil, I need to have that intent to buy the pencil. If I want to buy a shoes, I need to have an intent to buy a shoes. For example, I want to buy some premium boots, I like boots and I want to buy some premium boots, and those kind of boots are not available offline. It's not like I can go to the mall and find those boots. So those are funky boots, like a custom made boots which are only sold by certain players, and I can only buy it, say, for example, online, right? There are only a few players who are selling it online. So the first thing is that I should have an intent to buy those kind of boots. And if I have that intent, then I will do something online, right? I will do something, I'll do certain actions online. Okay, so then my buyer's intent, my intent of buying, I will send some signals. And based on the signal, if there are companies who can catch those signals, they can reach out to me and sell those boots, right? So buyer intent is there, irrespective of whether the buyer wants to buy online or offline, it doesn't really matter. But with online data and with so many different aggregators and the online data being provided, now we can get the buyer intent signal data very accurately, to a large extent. Okay. So what is buyer intent? So when a company or individual is actively looking for a solution, okay, and that means they are sending out intent signals everywhere. They might be doing something. They might be going to Google doing some search. They might be going to social media doing something. They might be, searching for an e-commerce application, going to Amazon, finding something in Amazon store, stuff like those. They might be doing a bunch of stuff online. And if those can be tracked, okay, and if those data can be collected, and then, and those signals can be collected in real time by those companies who are providing those solutions, then that data is super helpful in terms of, doing the sales. So what we're going to talk about in this particular webinar is purely from the B2B angle. We're not going to cover B2C or e-commerce, even though I just took an example of e-commerce like Amazon store and others. But for this webinar, the whole subject is only going to be in B2B and that to large B2B enterprise solutions and like so on. Okay. So the idea is to predict the purchase behavior based on digital action. That's the bottom line. So there are certain digital actions that the buyers are sending in terms of signals, and that's a purchase behavior. And if you can predict it and if you can capture it, then you can work on that data, and then you can, reach out to those buyers and sell your product and solutions. Okay, so that is what buyer intent data is. Okay, now where do you get the buyer intent data? That's another story. We'll go deep dive into that as well. Okay, so let me talk about a bit of evolution of the buyer intent data. For everybody who do not, the world's largest buyer intent platform is Google. Google by far has historically been the number one and the largest platform for intent data. What do I mean by that? Whenever you look for anything, you go to Google and you do Google search. If I want to buy a shoe, I'll do a Google search, If I'm looking for a doctor near me, I will go to Google saying that, a doctor near me or a pediatrician near me or whatever, right? If I am looking for some services near me, like a carpenter or plumber or whatever, I will, I typically go to Google search and I'll do Google search around my local search or any Google search for that matter, and I'll look for those stuff. If I'm looking for certain type of software, I will just, put something like, hey, fitness app for, certain category, right? For, for cardio fitness app, or stuff like those. So the world's largest buyer intent data provider historically and still today is Google. Google is the largest intent data provider in a sense that people go to Google with an intent of doing certain action. And if that intent is buying, that is where the real fight happens. The real estate matters where the intent is buying. For example, if you go to Google and just say, what is cryptocurrency? Google will go ahead and, put up a bunch of blogs and articles and stuff like those. So you click, you will go there, right? And you will read. So it's like a top of the funnel educational level information that you're looking for, and Google has provided those links for you to go to that. But the moment you say best HR management software, in India or any country, then I am coming to Google with an intent for looking for a HR based software, right? So if I'm looking for best HR software in India, that means my intent is to buy a HR software, right? So I'm giving that signal to Google that I'm trying to buy something. It's just based on the query that I put in. It's a signal to Google that I'm looking to buy something. Then Google will immediately, put that rental space, that is the first page of Google, up for auction. And Google will say, hey, you know what? This rental space is up for auction. People are here coming here using this particular search query to buy something. Why don't you, put up a bid? Then there are different companies, HR management software providers. They'll put up a bid. Okay, fine. For every click, I'm going to pay you $2, $3, $5. So then they will be bidding, and whoever bids the most will come on the top. So their software will come on the top. And that's how Google Ads work, and Google Ads is the number one platform for revenue for Google. So Google search is the number one buyer intent data, and still it is. Traditionally, it has been. Then later on, so Google search has been around for early 2000, and then early 2003 or 4, Google AdWords came into the picture. And since then, Google search has been the number one platform for buyer intent. Later on, YouTube also came into the picture. So YouTube also became Google's product. People go to YouTube also with the same intent, right? Sometimes buying intent as well. Then came the forums, right? The online forums like Quora, Reddit, discussion. So if I'm looking for, hey, what is the best HR software for a gym, right? So that kind of query I can put it up on Quora as well, and then Quora also started leveraging that information, and you can put up core ads and Reddit ads and like so on. Then came the social media, in the mid 2000s came the social media. So LinkedIn, YouTube, Meta, Instagram, super good platform for intent. Most of the people who come to social media is for entertainment and just to connect with people, but there's a lot of people who come with, even though they're not coming with, buyer's intent, but they're open to buy, right? Makes sense? So they're always searching and looking for things. So, and, for example, if I'm going to LinkedIn and I post saying that, hey, you know what, I'm looking for a job, that means I'm putting up an intent for HR recruitment companies to contact me and say that, hey, you know what, I can help you get a job. So all these platforms started becoming intent platforms in many ways. And then, B2B platform consolidated account levels. So then there was separate data providers like ZoomInfos and the Cognizants and these data aggregators. They started taking these data on the back end, and then they started accumulating that particular data, intent data. Companies like Sixsense and Clearbit. Clearbit later was acquired by HubSpot. So these companies continuously started tracking those intent data and consolidating that intent data and matching it with your IP and with your profile. And then they started creating this huge database, right? Live database, real-time database. And then they started selling these data to large B2B companies, right? For example, a large B2B company who is selling high-end machinery, right? Like tractor or big, big heavy machinery for real estate. They go to these intent data providers like Sixsense and Clearbit, and then they say, you know what, I need this data of this particular region, where what are the type of companies and who are these companies who will be looking for, this kind of heavy machineries. So then the companies like Sixsense and Clearbit and Cognizants can provide that data, to a very accurate level. So that's the evolution. Eventually, there were major players who started providing intent level data, and now we have so many different players out there. We'll talk about the players as well. But there's evolution, and now with the AI, you can do a lot with the intent level data, which is something that you were not able to do, 10 years back. All right. So intent level data evolved from keywords to full digital footprint and provides holistic understanding of companies and individual behavior. All right. Okay. So what are the types of buyer intent? So there are three core type of buyer intent. Okay. Number one is visitor intent. Visitor intent means people who are visiting your website or your app, but they are not giving their email address. For example, somebody came down to your website but did not fill out the contact us form, right? So we can now, with reverse IP tracking and other technology, we can track the visitor to the company level, to the individual level. We can even track the LinkedIn profile and email address. We have now we have those kind of technology now available. So we can do that. So if somebody visits your website, we can track them all the way till their LinkedIn profile or company profile. Or they visit your app, we can do that same, right? So we have the visitor intent level data. That's very important intent. If somebody is coming and visiting your site or visiting your app, that means they have an intent. And where they visit and what they do, basically the behavioral level data is something that actually gives you more context. So if somebody is coming to your website and just checking out your blog, then they may not be looking to buy anything. But if somebody is coming to your website and checking out your pricing page, then they might be looking to buy something. So the behavior matters a lot when it comes to buyer's intent, right? What is the behavior of it? And then based on that behavioral data, you can segment that. You can create segment and categorize on the people who are actually the people or the company who are actually willing to buy, and from the ones who are not, right? So we have the visitor intent. The next step is the research intent. Okay. And the third one is the target intent. Okay. So let me just open up my HubSpot and I will talk about these three core different type of intent, and I'm going to explain it using HubSpot. All this type of intent can be provided by other data providers as well. Other data providers, I mean to say, Six Sense and Cognizance and Apollo and others. They can also provide this kind of intent data. The reason why I'm using HubSpot is because that's what I use, and HubSpot has recently acquired Clearbit, which was one of the world's largest profile level and intent level data provider, and that is why I believe HubSpot is getting their information. So I'll give you an example of these three different type of intent in HubSpot. So if you go to HubSpot, this is how it's going to look like. So just go to your marketing hub. If you have the marketing hub, then click on buyer's intent, and this is how the dashboard is going to look like. Okay, so I've already put up the HubSpot tracking code on my website. So now, as you can see, the first is the visitor intent. We talked about the visitor intent. So now I can see who is actually visiting my site and what they are doing. Right. So in last 14 days, I can see there's a bunch of companies who have visited my website. And I also have the behavioral level data. For example, this particular company had 170 page views, and there were 3 unique visitors. There were 3 people actually who visited. And I can drill down, I can go and find out what they were exactly doing, what pages they were viewing. And even I can, find the, LinkedIn profile of the company, and and I can view their activities as well. So this is where I can see all their activity, what they were checking on. Right. So as you can see, they were checking out my webinar, and so we had 93 visits on this one particular webinar. So nonetheless, so they are checking. So I can just see what they are exactly doing, and if you can feed this data to an analytics team, and they can run an AI on that, I can do a lot with that. Right. So this is the visitor intent, and this can be all you have to do is just put the tracking code on your website, on your app, or any other asset that you may have, and you will be able to track those, and then based on that you'll be able to see who those visitors are and what they are doing. Okay, and based on who those visitors are, what they are doing, you can reach out to them, and you can saying that you can say, hey, you were checking out my pricing page. Looks like you're interested. Why don't you, I'll give you a discount. Why don't you go ahead and take a deal? Right. I'm just oversimplifying it, but I hope that you're getting the point I'm trying to make here. Okay. The next step is the research intent and the target market intent. Right. So if you go to the research intent, so you can add research topics. Right. So you can add any research topic. For example, my research topic is ABM or HRMS. Software. So for example, if I put up HRMS, HR management software, if I add that, right? HRMS, right? So I can add this research topic, okay, at the keyword level, or I can even put the company URL level. That means I put up a bunch of company names. If my own company name I can put up, and if somebody is looking for my company name, then it will pop up here, right? But that you should only do if you have a big brand or something like that, right? But keyword based is applicable to everybody. For example, I am selling a HR management software. So what I should do is I will go ahead and put up a HR management, HRIS and whatever, all these HR solution, all these keywords I will add, right? And HubSpot will automatically start populating, and I can put more conditions as well. HubSpot will start automatically populating the companies who are showing interest in buying that. Where they are getting the data? From these third-party data providers like Clearbit and Six Sense. They are getting the data from there. Okay. But the moment I put HRMS, I immediately see that there are 532 companies possibly looking for HR management software. Now, the next obvious question that may arise is this a valid data? Not really, not necessarily. It's not like that, all of, whatever data is provided here is absolutely 100% bang on. No, but this is a good starting point, right? You can fill this company details into your pipeline, and you can start prospecting and create an ABM strategy on top of it. All right. So you can add these topics, as many topics as you want. I think there's a limit in the number of topics that you can add, but you can add these topics, and then these systems will automatically start providing you prospect, the company level data, to you, and you can work on top of that, right? So, and then there is something called as the target accounts. Okay, so if you go to Sales Hub, so the third one is the target market intent. So one is the website visitor, which is the closest. That means if somebody visits your website or app, you figure that out and find the buyer intent. The second is research level intent. That means, you put up a topic and then you try to find out companies who are searching for those topics, like HRMS software. Okay, that's the second level of intent. And then the third level of intent is you put the entire market, right? You say, you know what, I'm interested in healthcare industry, home care industry, stuff like this. So you put the entire target market and you put the intent there, and then you basically put the context, and then you start gathering data around that, right? So if you go to Sales Hub, you can put that as well. If you go to target accounts, so all these target accounts have started coming up, right? In a sense that you just put a bunch of target accounts and you can create a lookalike audiences and like so on. So you can just create a list of it, and then you can create your own the ideal customer profile tier and do your own AVM. So there's a bunch of here. I don't want to get into the technicalities here, but I hope that you got the point here, in terms of how the buyer intent works, what are the major category of buyer intent, right? And what you can do. We have just recently, they have added something called as signals. HubSpot has just recently launched this signal under the Breeze Intelligence. They are still working on that. I'm going to talk more about that in the coming days, right? So if you add that complete target market here, just add a target market, you can add complete markets here, and HubSpot will start populating the most relevant companies in those markets which can become your customer. I mean, it sounds like a magic, but yeah, it works like that. Okay, so you can manage your markets as well. So the context that you're giving to HubSpot is that, hey, you know what? This is the market I want to target. Please find me good companies within the market which suits my need, right? So it will start slowly providing those data as well. All right, so let me do a full presentation here. Okay, so these are the three most important type of buyer intent, but there are other buyer intents as well. So let me just go through this one by one. Companies visiting your site, your website, app, or social media profiles. This is visitor intent. A company viewing 103 pages in 14 days. I think I already explained that. It's right in front of you. It's a very important intent data. If somebody is visiting your website, especially if you are selling high-ticket items, it's very important for you to keep a track of those companies and people, right? Why it matters? Because it's a direct signal of interest to you. Research intent. This captures companies searching for specific topics, keywords, themes, companies reading about ABM strategies or HRMS or B2B marketing automation platforms. So why it matters? Because it shows active evaluation in your category, right? There are company who is evaluating things and you get that signal right away. And then the target market intent, where you put the entire market by industry, geography, market segment, knowing that financial services company in North America are actively searching for intent data solution. Okay, around financial services. Okay, why it matters? Because it aligns with your ideal customer profile and your target market and your TAM. All right, so these are some of the most commonly and most prominent intent data, but there are other type of intent as well. Okay, some of the other type of intent that we have already talked about in the past is job intent. If somebody is posting a job, that means there is a hiring trend. If somebody is posting a lot of jobs, that means they are growing company. You see, you can provide a service. If somebody is posting a job of a network engineer, that means they are setting up a network system, or they may need services with respect to large network systems and like so on. So you may argue, hey, what is job has to do with buying intent? You can connect the dots here, right? And with AI, things have become much easier than ever before, right? So job posting itself is a large, provides a large amount of intent. The second is social listening. You can monitor entire industries, competitor discussions, entire social media trends, and you can find intent around that. There are tools around that. We are going to create separate videos and webinars on that. Outreach engagement, you are reaching out to your customers, you're sending bulk emails and LinkedIn messages. You can track the intent based on who has opened, who has clicked, who has replied, and like so on. Google search, good old Google search, still strong, high intent signals. Keep running Google ads, until people completely stop using Google search. I think Google ads is going to be relevant, and I don't see Google ads going anywhere. With Gemini in, I think Google ads is going to stay. Okay, so in terms of prioritization, just prioritize the visitor intent, then research intent, then market intent, and then use the secondary signals to enrich the context. Okay, so this is how you should prioritize your intent, but industry to industry, things might change. Okay, so what are the data sources for buyer intent? Intent signals are only useful if you know where to find them. That's very important. Okay, I have already given you some examples like Clearbit, 6sense, HubSpot. There are so many different data providers. Cognizant, the Apollo, they all provide intent data. If you have ZoomInfo, you know that very well. So we will create a separate webinar on the first party and the third party sources of this intent data. I think that requires another webinar altogether. We use HubSpot a lot. Doesn't mean that others are bad. But HubSpot can track visitor intent, research intent, and it can also filter intent signals by target market. And HubSpot has its own marketing tool and sales tool and CRM tools. So you can even do the outreach and ABM, ads, all of that from within one platform. So in that way, HubSpot is a very useful tool, and it shows the intent right within your CRM. So that's also something which is very useful. Okay, so the third-party platform, I talked about ZoomInfo, Apollo, Cognizant, large-scale data aggregation. So we have built our own tool called Job Feeder, our own company's tool, which can give you job posting intent. But then there are other tools as well which provide job posting intent. Tools like Clay can provide you job posting intent as well. So why it is valuable? Because it reveals the in-market demand that you cannot see directly. That's why it is super well. All right. So first-party data, even though I'm quickly going to go over this, we are going to certainly going to create a separate webinar on this. But to give a quick context here, the first-party data is the most accurate data because it's based on your direct interaction with your assets. So for example, your website visitor, your app visitor is your first party data in many ways, right? Your G2 profile visitor is your first party. G2 profile is second party technically, but yeah, it is very, very close there. So your own assets, people interacting with your own social media is your first party data, right? Your own assets. CRM history, CRM past history, past opportunities, email engagement, all of that is first party data. Website analytics, downloads, webinar viewers, even participation. So whatever your own assets can be the great source of data for you. And that is where you should first look for intent-based data before going to second party and the third party. Right? Signals versus intent. So intent is more business function, signal is more technical function. Right? For example, if I am looking to buy a shoe, that's an intent. But if I go do a Google search, that's a signal. So signal is more technical oriented, right? Technical action like click, visit, downloads, stuff like those, that's signal. Intent is the interpretation, the business meaning behind those signals that you interpret. If somebody posts a job, that's a signal. But what is your interpretation of it? Why they have posted the job? That's an intent. So tools like HubSpot, ZoomInfo, can bridge the raw data, the signals to the business insight, which is intent, that needs to be bridged. And now AI is playing a very, very important role in doing that. Earlier, we used to do it manually, creating workflows and, human used to visualize, understand. So there was a lot of work that was involved that can be now done with AI. Okay, so buyer intent reveals who is actively searching for solution. Okay, so focus on visitor research, market level intent, combine first party plus third party full visibility, and use platforms to turn signals into pipeline. Okay, this is like a basic framework in terms of what you should be doing. I will certainly go ahead and create additional content around this. Okay, long story short here, just focus on visitor research and market level intent, combine those data, and then use these platforms to create an outreach and ABM strategies to increase your pipeline. That's the high level framework. Okay, but we'll certainly go ahead and deep dive into it in the coming days. All right, so I kept it short today. I hope that this was useful. We are going to continue talking about this particular topic. For everybody who do not still know me, my name is Ritesh Osta. One of the top rated Fiverr Pro consultant when it comes to B2B marketing, B2B sales, GTM engineering. And I'm also the founder of company InsightsTap, where we help our customers with GTM, go-to-market strategy, go-to-market engineering, ABM, account-based marketing, B2B sales, and B2B marketing. So if you need any of that help, please reach out to us. Please do subscribe to our channel. We produce this kind of valuable content every single week. I hope that this webinar was helpful to you. Please write down in the comment section if you have any questions. I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of information out there. And if you feel that I have missed out anything, please write down in the comment section. We will add that up and we'll continue our series. Thank you so much. You have a nice day ahead.